Hi, Harold.
Hi, Shannon. It's really nice to talk to you.
It's good to talk to you as well. Thank you. And congratulations on the launch just last week of Platform for Change.
Thank you. I hope it's going to make a difference to the industry.
Well, and that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. I hope so
Sure.
as well. I think any set of resources are always useful for the industry. But I'm really interested to hear in what your vision is for this, as in the way in which it's going to benefit the industry. What's your hope?
Well, where the idea came from is that the Cape Town Declaration was in 2002, and we had a definition of responsible tourism there that didn't even particularly talk about climate change. In fact, didn't mention it. It's an embarrassment. But 20 years on, we need to reflect on what's been achieved and try and learn from that and see whether we can't help the industry to change a bit faster. Now, one of the things that's obvious about the agenda for responsible tourism is massive. You know, it's decarbonisation, it's greenhouse gases, it's biodiversity extinction, it's child protection, it's local economic development, it's over tourism. It's a massive agenda, and different things matter more in different places. Although, of course, plastic pollution and climate change are international issues. But what I hope the Platform for Change will do is share examples of things which have been done by businesses and destinations which have made a demonstrable difference on these issues. Because if we can help people to replicate what others have done, we've got a better chance of speeding up progress. And over the last 20 years, we've seen some stunning examples of things which have been done, some of them within your organization, but lots of different people doing lots of different things. But there's been no easy way of sharing that in the past, and the academics have not made a very good job of it. So I'm planning to do it with practitioners.
Which I think is really interesting because as a former student, continued student, case studies have, respectfully, out of academia, have had limited utility for me in a practical sense. And books of case studies have had limited utility for me in a practical sense, and I've always found that a little bit disappointing. You do talk about accountability and transparency on the platform of change. You do, for change, forgive me, you do also mention responsible tourism is not the same as sustainable tourism. And I would love your position on the value of debating the definitions over presenting the tactics.
There's no value in debating definitions. The
Really want
reason
to
to
say that.
emphasize the difference, come on, I was an academic, I can do that very easily, but I'm also aware how pointless it is. I once by accident really put my head in the ecotourism noose and wrote about it, and of course everybody then wanted to debate it. There's about 1,000 different definitions of ecotourism. Pointless. Responsible tourism, though, is different in the sense that what we were basically saying is, look, it's dead simple. We know we want sustainability. We can't define sustainability, but we can say that we're taking responsibility to improve the amount of money my hotel, our hotel spends in the local economy. We can do that and we can measure it. Or we can decide we're going to stop using single-use plastics, and we can describe what we've done, and we can measure the impact we've had in that way. So it's about saying, I guess if you wanted to use the old feminist explanation of this, it's like saying, how does a woman eat an elephant? Well, the answer is they eat it one bite at a time. And what you need to do in order to achieve sustainability is to take responsibility for making some changes, rather than to worry about defining sustainability, which we've consistently failed to do. You hear people say mean no more than they'll still be in business next year. Well, that's not what I mean by sustainability, but I can't define it. The point is, it's about trying to make the world a better place through tourism, and that's a whole range of different ways. And not everybody who's engaged in that would necessarily subscribe to being called responsible, but they are.
I suppose I live my life, everything I look at is in a funnel. So what you just said is a number of things. We've got responsible tourism, sustainable tourism, or whatever definition you tend to go by. And for me, it's semantics. Then you've got those who quote unquote commit to sustainability. Okay, so we've gotten a little bit further down the funnel, perhaps. But when we really get into it, into what's useful, you've already said it. It's we can do it and we can measure it.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I think that's what's been missing. And I would love, you know, is that what we're going for with the platform, to be able to explain they did it, they measured it, and
Yeah.
here are the examples.
And this is how it works. So that somebody who, I hope that people who put their projects on the platform will be willing to share with others how they made it happen, which is why I'd like to interview you at some point about what your strategy has been to make change. But fundamentally, it's about saying, this is the issue we identified, this is why it's important, this is what we did, and this is the outcome. I contrast that with I use this example all the time, but I get booked into a hotel in Morocco. It's apparently a really good sustainable hotel. I go into the room and the temperature is set at 15 degrees. There's a piece of cardboard in the key thing on the wall, and the TV's on telling me who I am, which I always find mildly insulting. I don't yet have dementia, I know who I am. So I go out, I take the piece of cardboard out of the thing, I turn the temperature up to about 25 degrees, it's 35 outside. I think that's perfectly adequate to sleep in. I go out, I have dinner, I come back, and guess what? The room attendant's been in and the temperature's back down at 15 degrees. At which point I could go to the front desk and play merry hell, and they would do two things probably. They say, well, we didn't give ourselves the certificate, so forget that, I'm not giving you compensation. And they probably give the room attendant a telling off. So why would I go and do that? Why am I going to jeopardize the room attendant when the problem is the hotel and the way the hotel is managed? And at one point I was going to start a big campaign to get people to all go to the front desk and complain. And then I thought about what that would mean for the room attendants at the bottom of the heap in a hotel, and I thought, I'm not going to do that. It's not their fault, it's the management's fault, but they won't take the blame.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting you use that example. The education component of sustainability at our organization has been one of the biggest challenges, but also accepted so readily, because to your point is team members want to know what exactly, okay, how do I help? I see this massive strategy, that's great, but what are the tactics? And I always go back to the tactics. What exactly is it you need to do? And I think that in our business, accommodators, accommodations, tourism providers, destinations, for so long have sort of looked at this word sustainability, responsibility, and said, great, I want to get on board. Where do I start? And it's back to the elephant. And so, you know, if we have an opportunity here with the platform to stay, this is how they drew their scope. These are the issues they identified, which are the exact same things. This is how they approached it, and this is how they managed it. You know, that's, I think, providing those tactics to the industry is really, really exciting, because it is a shared challenge. It's not a proposition, a selling proposition, sustainability in your organization anymore. It's something we all have to work together on. So I think that, you know, for those who have done it to share what is they've done is a really exciting opportunity for them.
A couple of comments on that, maybe, Shannon, if I may. I mean, the first is that there's not much reward really for somebody in one of the green teams in the hotel, for example, other than them knowing that they've made a difference. And I do think that one of the things the industry doesn't value enough is that people who feel they're doing good for their community or good for the environment are more likely to stay in the industry. And we do suffer from high levels of staff turnover in some parts of the sector. So I think it's good for them, and they have a sense of personal achievement. The other thing I'd say is I think the industry has been absolutely rubbish at communicating to travelers. I mean, I think about the most recent research by Booking.com. I think it's 49% of the people they asked said that they don't think it's easy to buy sustainable tourism. Mm-hmm. And I think that's our fault, because we don't talk about what we're doing. We hide behind certificates when actually people remember stories. You know, the story I tell about Morocco, I tell that story not to criticize Morocco. It's happened to me in lots of different places, but because I know people remember that. They'll remember it and they recognize it. Everybody's been into a hotel bedroom where somebody stuck a bit of cardboard. It happened to me recently. I checked into a hotel and they wanted me to have 2 key cards. And I said, well, have you given the room to somebody else as well? Am I sharing? And she said, no, but you'll need 2 key cards, won't you? And I'm thinking, the only reason I need 2 key cards is to leave one in the little slot on the wall while I go out for supper. And I thought, it's terrible. what kind of image does that give me of the hotel? How serious are they about sustainability? They think they should actually give me 2 key cards so that I can do that. It's crazy. And and the same research showed, I think it was, I forget the exact figure, it was over 30% of people said they got very angry when they were prevented from being as sustainable when they're abroad as they are at home because the facilities weren't there or they didn't know how to do it. You know, really, we've just failed, I think, to communicate the good stuff that we are doing. We've hidden behind certificates. And that
It's a
doesn't,
balance.
people remember stories. Stories and experiences are what people remember.
Yeah. I will never forget being guilted when using the elevator at the Rubens Red Carnation Hotel because the staff were simply not allowed to use elevators unless for multiple floors carrying a heavy load, and they stick to it. And I will only use the stairs when I stay at a Red Carnation. I'm allowed to use the elevator, of course, but I want to support everything that they do as a team.
And
Yeah,
so I think with a lot of travelers, but the problem is it's all kept a secret, isn't it? We don't share it.
well, it's interesting because there's a fine line. The research that was put out in support of the platform, and I have it in front of me, forgive me, it states, didn't it, that, there we go, this is me being prepared. 18% want to travel more sustainably, but 16% saying it's too expensive. And that to me is a head shaker. So why do you feel it's more expensive?
That was WTM's UK research, and the Booking.com research doesn't show that internationally. One of the things that's shocking is that Europe is no longer in the lead. I've been at this a long time, and I can remember when people said, oh, well, that's just the Europeans who care about that. You look at the Booking.com's figures, and China is way out there in front. And I think what you see, and Brazil is out there as well. And I think what we see is that those countries which are most aware of the damage that human beings have done to the environment are more likely to be concerned about their impacts when they're traveling. And, you know, the myth that it's more expensive to travel responsibly is one that we have inherited from the ecotourism thing, because when ecotourism started, that was a way of getting people to pay more, because in theory they were having a better experience and they should pay more for it. But when we did research, I did a big research project at the Doral Institute of Conservation and Ecology looking for ecotourism on the ground in 3 national parks, India, Indonesia and Zimbabwe. And we couldn't find it because at the system level in a national park, the ecotourist is using the same Land Rovers, the same lodges, the same guides and everything else. You know, there's no difference on the ground. It doesn't make a difference. And in fact, when you talk to park wardens, they'll tell you one of the biggest problems is the birders, because they want to get their photograph and they don't care what they trample over to get close enough to get their photograph of the particular bird. That's not all bird watchers, I know that, but those people are different. And the same, you know, you see in India, you see people hunting the tiger with their cameras, and you know, I've been in situations where tigers have ended up being surrounded by jeeps full of people taking photographs of them, disrupting the breeding and the feeding of those animals. You know, it's ecotourism has left us with a very difficult legacy as an industry. I remember when I was being told, we don't need to worry about sustainable tourism. That's what the ecotourism people do. Really? Yep. You know, the problem is the whole industry. It's not just that tiny 1% of the industry which ecotourism represents.
Well, and how responsible is it to say, oh, these are the sustainable tourism providers, let's let them do the job, whilst you know, mass market, that argument that mass market cannot be sustainable or responsible, well, that does my head in.
I agree. And
not only can it be, but it must be. Who's got the power with the suppliers based on buying alone? Who's going to affect the greatest change? But I'm glad to hear you say that this you know, 16% of travelers reckoning it's too expensive. I agree with you, it's a myth, and I think it's back to your point of, you know, a failure to educate and to tell those stories. And it's a fine balance. Having been engaged in sustainable tourism storytelling for so long, we bring ambassadors in, we work with, you know, expert film producers, because we have to find that balance between, yes, you're going on holiday, Yes, you want to have a wonderful time and leave your worries at home, but no, you must not leave your sensibilities at home at the same time. And how to package that up in a way that's educational and not taking away from the travel experience.
One of the things, Shannon, which comforts me when I'm feeling depressed about this, is that actually when you look at hospitality and hospitality's journey towards sustainability, a lot of it started in the spas. And that was because of Anita Roddick's campaigns around the Body Shop and not using products which had been tested on animals.
Right.
And it's interesting, you see sustainability come out of the spas in the hotels. I think that's an important thing to remember. And people, you think about aerated showers. There was a time when very few people would be able to tell the difference between an aerated shower and a non-aerated shower, or between LED lights and non-LED lights. These days, of course, more and more people do know. And if you've got, one of the funniest things I ever did was take a photograph of an A card which said don't wash your towels every day, next to an unaerated shower. So I was doing a seminar in Kangaroo Island for local hoteliers, and I didn't name the hotel I was staying in, but I could see the hotel manager's face when he realized that it was his A card and his unaerated shower. But that kind of mismatch between what you're claiming as a business and what you're actually delivering to the consumer becomes more and more of a problem as consumers become better educated.
But it's an opportunity when your team members are educated.
Yep.
Like we spoke about earlier, with the system of ownership on sustainability with an organization enables those people, if they feel empowered, to identify, oh, well, you missed it. You missed the shower. And I think that's really wonderful, and a really wonderful opportunity when you don't sit sustainability with your marketing team, but rather it's got tentacles throughout the organization. That's when you see success as an organization.
That's reminding me, Shannon, I don't think I've said this to you before, but this is a word of warning to you and all the other people who might be applying for awards. The weakest awards applications are always those written by the marketing and PR departments.
Yeah.
Because they're not close enough to it, and they use a kind of language that isn't very convincing. They can't help it. It's because that's what they've been trained to do in travel and tourism. Mm-hmm. And I think the more we get the hotel engineers or the tour leaders or the people who put the product together talking about why they've changed it, why they've made it more sustainable, the more we will communicate to our customers. And that's what really matters. Customers, the partners, the people in the supply chain, the neighbors, those are the people we need to be communicating it to. And we don't do that with certificates. We do it with stories and with real examples.
I couldn't agree more. Well, I should congratulate you then to close on the launch. And I'm excited to see what stories are posted and what approaches and tactics that we can learn from at the Travel Corporation.
Shannon, I'm absolutely sure that you and your colleagues from the Travel Corporation will be contributors as well. But I think the more we share, the better. And I think people have begun to realize that we need to share this now. It's not particularly competitive advantage. It's about sharing it and making tourism, travel and tourism, a respectable industry. It is so important around the world. We have to do that.
Yeah, and we cannot do it as practitioners on our own. I could not agree more.
We can't. Shannon, thank you. I've really enjoyed being interviewed by you. It was a lot of fun. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.